episode of Dana Being Dana. I am your host, Dana Michelle, and it's so good to be here with my friends for this travel show. I'm very excited because I love traveling. Traveling is one of my favorite topics, and it's just such a fun topic because you just got to get out there. I think when you believe that life is meant to be lived, traveling is one of the best ways to express that. I first want to introduce my panel because people have come from far and wide to be here, and I appreciate you all being here. First, I want to start off with my friend Elizabeth. We call her Liz. How are you?
Doing well.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us where you came from.
Okay, from Columbus, Ohio. So that's where one of our offices is located. The other is in Peachtree, and it's outside of Atlanta.
And Elizabeth's company,
Globe Travel Designers.
Yes, and it is an award-winning, minority-owned, woman-owned business, travel business, which is fantastic. Liz and I went to college together. She is my Spelman sister. She's my sorority sister. She's my line sister. And she has graciously sponsored the show. So I appreciate you being here. And you brought one of your coworkers with you, Devin.
Hello, sure did. Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us where you're from.
So, like you said, I'm from Globe Travel Designers. I work for Elizabeth. I work in the leisure department, so I plan vacations.
That's awesome. And it's such a pleasure to meet you because you helped me plan my vacation.
I sure did.
Yes. Thank you so much for all your help. And I feel like I've known you for a while, but we've just only talked on the phone, and you helped me plan a trip for me and my kiddos. So I really appreciate that.
Oh, no problem.
Thank you so much for being here. Katerina.
Yeah. Hi.
How are you?
Great. Happy to be here.
So Katerina and I've known Katerina as long as I have been an attorney. We've worked together as lawyers before we even graduated from law school. And we worked at a firm, and now we work together in private, and we're both in-house at a large technology consulting firm. And so I am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. And you were a natural for me thinking of someone to come and join us because you and your husband, Robbie. Hi, Robbie.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. You both love to travel. And so you guys have kids?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Two
What do you
girls.
have?
Two girls, twin girls, Alicia and Sophia. Shout out. They might be watching.
Are they watching? Which is awesome. And so I love to have you guys here because of just you guys are always traveling. And so I'm just so happy that you're here, and I appreciate you being here.
We are happy to hear.
Yes. And last but not least, my girl Denise.
Hello.
How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much for being here. Denise, too, is always in the skies. I'm surprised that I get you guys all in the same room at the same time because you guys are all always traveling. So I was joking about feeling lucky that you guys would be here with me in the studio, but it's true that you guys are always gone and always busy. So my first question to you, and then I just want to acknowledge some of our sponsors real quick. But my first question is, where is your next destination? Do you have a trip planned? Where are you going next?
We are leaving in 2 weeks. We have a road trip plan on the East Coast, starting in New York and driving up, visiting the International Tennis Hall of Fame in Newport, and then going to Boston and up to Maine, driving along the coast all the way up to Acadia.
That's awesome. And that's interesting because it's a road trip, right?
Yeah.
So the trips, keep that in mind, people. You don't necessarily have to be on a plane,
Right.
Or a cruise. You can be on the road. You can be in your car. You could just hit the road. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Where's your next trip? And you can't count going back home because you guys came from Ohio.
Okay. Yeah.
But where's your next trip?
I think next year my husband and I are going to do Jamaica. So
Jamaica.
that's our next bucket list.
Yeah,
So,
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Denise?
I've got my next travels are for business. So
Okay.
I'll be in San Francisco and London
And San Francisco and London for work.
for work.
So hard.
Terrible
work
business
environment.
trips. And I hope to get Greece in next year.
Yes,
around
that's
June.
nice.
Yes.
Well, Uniglobe can help you with that because
I know. Now I
some
know.
people just came back from Greece. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, and so for me, I'm going to Miami in August just for a little birthday trip, but then I'm going to Venice and then Croatia in September on a cruise. So I'm super excited about it. Never been to either of those locations. Yep, I'm excited. I'll have to get some tips from you guys. Yeah,
that is awesome. So before we get into more, I just want to thank our sponsors. We've had a ton of sponsors for this show, which I really, really appreciate. One, of course, is Uniglobe Travel Designers. Can you tell us how we can reach you to plan our next trip?
So you could reach us on our website. So it's uniglobetraveldesigners.com. Obviously, we're on Instagram, UniglobeTD. Our phone number, 800-966-6512. And then we have a local number, 614-237-4488.
We will be hearing that throughout the evening. Uniglobe Travel Designers. We hope that this piques your interest in traveling, getting out there, getting stamps in your passport. I also want to thank our other sponsors, GH Private Wealth Management, 800-591-6004. You got to get your money right if you want to get out here in these travel streets. The Social MVP. Thank you so much for all your support with our marketing. TheSocialMVP.com. Scene Chicago, who produced a beautiful article about Uniglobe Travel Designers and Liz. SceneChicago.com. Veronica's House of Glamour. 630-995-2320. And of course, the Homecoming Challenge. We're rolling it out big this year. It's our campaign sponsored by Dana Being Dana and the T-shirt King, Chris Evans. www.homecomingchallenge.com. It's our campaign we're rolling out this fall. When you go back, you give back. So thank you all so much for all of your support. Please subscribe to our website, danabeingdana.com. So I loved how this topic, and I appreciate you all. I hope you guys saw all the marketing that we did. Because the pictures were amazing. And the pictures came from our guests in so many awesome, amazing, fun places. And I loved how this topic of travel resonated with so many people. People love to travel. Everybody who likes to travel, please share the show. Because I think in so many ways, it's an escape. It's a way to get out. It's a way to enjoy yourself, have a good time. And people need that. I know I need a vacation, so it's nice to travel. Why do you travel?
I think for me, it's nice to go into a new environment and actually immerse yourself in the culture and survive and see that there's an entire world out there that can impact, you and how you see the world. I mean, there's so many experiences that I've had that have really shaped me. And changed my viewpoint about things. I mean, being in Beijing is completely different than being in London or being in Spain. And I think it's just incredible to continue to learn and to have those experiences that really impact your life and your viewpoint.
Absolutely.
Anybody else? Why do you travel?
Well, we travel as a family to many places just to see different cultures. I think different languages, the mentality of people, to show our kids how the world is different yet similar. I think it's learning. I think we constantly learn language, culture. I think every place in the world has a beautiful history. And I think it's just fun to see that, and fun to see that through the kids' eyes. It's pretty amazing, actually.
I think that's true. I shared a quote from Mark Twain earlier this week, and I thought it was just an awesome quote. And it said, "Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness." Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, to piggyback on your question, I started doing a lot of extensive traveling just to relax and kind of take a break from work and, business obligations. But my business travel has taken me to some really unique places that I think have exposed me to other cultures that I probably wouldn't have ventured off into if I had chose a personal vacation for just relaxation. So, I've gone to India and spent about 10 days there just related to the business. And I think traveling to those places certainly just opens your eyes up to different cultures, very different, unique experiences. I often feel very ignorant because as Americans, we don't get out very much. And so most recently I just had experiences in working with people that live in Germany and London, and I'm just amazed at how many places they've been to, taking advantages of being so close in Europe to travel multiple places, but then just that they speak 3 and 4 languages. And I'm like,
Right.
Well, I got English,
Right.
and I can say danka.
We go to Mexico and we're like, see. See.
So I think it definitely does that to just expose you to different cultures and experiences that you just wouldn't see otherwise.
Denise, what was your favorite experience? Because I think a very different culture than America. So what was maybe one of your favorite experiences being in India, or something more memorable for you?
Yeah, one of my pictures I shared, but I would say
which was awesome, by the way.
The trip to Taj Mahal was unreal. It was one of the best experiences. And I went with a group of people that had visited before. So I was like, well, I'm doing all the tourist stuff. If you guys want to work, that's fine. I'm going to do all the tourist stuff and then I'll go work. But the Taj Mahal was absolutely amazing. Just to hear the history and some of, just the history of how it was built. And I don't know if any of you have been, but there's an exact replica of the Taj behind it that was not finished. The intent was it for it to be for the king's wife,
right?
Or no, the king himself. His wife was buried in the Taj, and they didn't finish it. So they're both ultimately buried in the center at the Taj. But I mean, I would have never known that. So it was really an interesting experience. I think the funny part about it was I was there, and there weren't many women of African American descent, and many people wanted to take a selfie with me. They thought I was Oprah.
Get it, girl. Yes, honey.
So it was like we were at the end, and it was like selfie. So my coworkers finally had to say, like, enough. Like, it's not actually Oprah.
Oprah is on Davey and Dana. Thank you so much. I do feel when I travel internationally that I do feel more American than I do Black or African American. Yeah. Do you feel that too? Do you feel like some of our differences here in America kind of go out the window when you leave the country and you're in a different place? Liz, can you talk a little bit about American travel versus people who are not Americans and people who travel? Because I do think the American, and Denise, you touched on this a bit, I do think the domestic travel or the American mindset when it comes to travel, there's a lot of people who don't take vacation. I found out at our company, 27%. There's 27% of PTO that's kind of left on the table at the end of the year. Where people are not, they're not traveling, they're not using it. And obviously there's various reasons why that happens, but can you talk a little bit about how we travel as Americans versus how people in other parts of the world travel?
So Dana and I were talking about this earlier this evening, but like in Europe, they take holiday for, 3 or 4 months. And so what we're seeing in our business as far as the leisure travel is concerned is that people are coming back to us and coming to us because maybe they had a bad experience, right? With like a cheapcaribbean.com or cheapcruises.com or even with an Expedia. And so they're saying we don't have a lot of time, but for the time that we have, we want it to be great. And so that's why people will come and work with us, because they want to work with, the experts that can leverage our relationships if something goes wrong. Or we always try to surprise and delight our clients. We want to be there for them before, during, and after the trip. But it's about those small things that can enhance the trip. Is it a recommendation for an off the beaten path restaurant? Is it, this beautiful beach that people don't know about, or a tour company that we work with? That's what we try to do. But what's happening is that, you're right. A lot of people, they do not take vacations. And so the ones that do, they want their trip to go well, and they want it to be taken care of, and they want to have a great experience, and they don't want to have to worry about all those details.
And so if you want to get a good experience, how do we reach you? How do you surprise and delight?
So it's UniglobeTravelDesigners.com. And then you can reach us on IG, Instagram, and then, of course, 800-966-6512.
Devin, can you tell us about a time where you went out of your way to surprise and delight your clients?
Absolutely. Let's see. I'm trying to think of all the countless times. So every time we have a client travel, especially if it's a real VIP one, someone that we has worked with us multiple times, we do our best. We contact our reps with the different vendors that we go through. We will just go and email the hotel directly and just say, what can we do for our clients? What can we put in their room? What's something extra that we can plan for them, so when they show up in this hotel after already having an amazing trip, and then go into the room and see chocolate covered strawberries and a note that says, hope you're having a wonderful trip, you know what I mean? And then they just feel like that extra special love that we took the time to plan something extra for them. And honestly, that's what keeps them coming back and wanting to do more travel, because they know we've got their back.
Do you have a lot of customers who come back?
Yeah,
for multiple trips
repeat and
referrals.
referral business is great for us, right? Because that means that we did a good job.
Mhm.
And people felt, and we all, word of mouth is what works. And if people trust our name, then they're going to pass that on. And so I'm constantly asking for referrals and for reviews, because that's only going to help, where people can say, you know what, they really are doing what they say they're going to do.
They're the real deal.
Right.
The real deal. Robbie, Katerina, can you guys talk about where you were born and what your experience was like growing up in terms of travel?
Sure. So I was born in the Czech Republic, formerly Czechoslovakia, and I lived there until I was 19 years old. So I met Robbie in Israel when I was 21.
Which is like 10 years ago.
I wish. So, until I was 14 years old, I didn't travel much because there was communism there and, borders weren't open. So I was lucky to travel twice to former Yugoslavia in the summertime to spend the time by the sea there, which was fantastic. But other than that, I didn't travel much. So, when I was a teenager, I started seeking opportunities, how to get out, right, what to do. So I started working for a travel agency, when I was 17, and I spent every summer, Croatia, Venice.
Oh, cool.
I pretended to be a guide and know all the history about all the buildings. I was the person walking with the yellow umbrella. So that's and I fell in love with traveling and seeing places and meeting people. And then once we met, we moved together to the States, and we traveled within the States, back to Europe. We've been traveling a lot. So
Ever since.
yeah.
What about you, Robbie? Where were you born and your travel experience?
Okay, so I was born in Arad, Romania, to a minority Hungarian background, speak Hungarian as well. When I was 3.5, the family moved to Israel, so I got the education of the Israeli community and speak Hebrew as well. Obviously, Israel being sort of the holy land for all the religions, and all the people are sort of excited about all the history unfolding in the country. Beautiful country, by the way. I highly recommend visiting. So I grew up there, and I traveled as an athlete all my life since I was 14, and I saw a lot of places, not quite the leisure way, Devin, but I've seen a lot. And then when we met, we decided to go to some of those places and see them a little bit more thoroughly and leisurely, and of course with our kids as well.
And if I can just add one thing. So when I met Robbie in Israel, I loved Israel as a country, and I bought this thick guidebook about Israel. And every weekend when he was off, we would I would find a place in that guidebook and we would go there. So he actually got to know Israel way more with me than he
I
did
have to
on
admit,
his own.
living there, I didn't know as much as since after we met. Because
Was she carrying an umbrella when
No.
you guys were touring?
But let me tell you, she knew more about the country than I, for sure.
Wow.
That's
Really
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Where was your first trip that you guys took together?
That's it.
In Israel?
Yeah, I think no, actually, we went to Germany with his students. So his junior tennis players traveled. That was the first summer after
The first
we
summer
met. We
after we
traveled
met.
in Germany around various junior tournaments.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it wasn't
was
leisure,
fun.
it was business, but it was
fun.
kind of fun too, because it was young kids and they competed and we got to see a little bit. And it was fun. We did that quite a bit.
That's awesome. I grew up traveling. My parents, we would spend a lot of time in the Caribbean and just family trips, visiting family. My family's big on family reunions. Hi, family. And so we would, meet around the country. We would also, visit for holidays, just kind of big on showing up and traveling. What about the rest of you? What was your travel experience like as a kid? Because I do think there's many people who don't, travel at all. And so I want to help expose people, if you haven't grown up traveling, or you don't have a curiosity about it, let's share with them some of the things that you're missing or reasons why.
Yeah, I think it's the opportunity, right? There are some students that I mentor, and they just see themselves in the 614, that's the area code of Columbus, and those parameters. And I always say there's a whole world out there. And once you see something, then you realize like the opportunities and that you can achieve so much more. But I was just like you, Dana. I was really fortunate to travel a lot as a kid, and we traveled spring and summer. We traveled internationally. It was just something that's kind of been in my blood, and it's just so important. So whenever I talk to kids and even young people that are on their phones all the time, I'm like, you know what? You need to get someplace. Like, you need to see something. You need to experience a culture. You need to see there's a whole world out there. Because it makes a huge difference. There's so many things that have happened where people have traveled and they decided, like, I do want to go to college now, right? Or I do want to go to law school. Or it's just there's something that kind of clicks when you can see how the world is, and it's different, than where you are.
And when you travel, you definitely have a better or deeper perspective. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn about your place in the world. I think some of the problems are first world problems, right? Things that we get so caught up in. When you see people in other countries, you realize how much we take for granted as Americans.
Yes.
And all of the fortune that we are blessed with. And it's very eye-opening. Just some of the culture, and just to see people in different countries who have far less than we do, but who have so much more joy.
Correct.
Who have so much more peace, who have so much more human aspects to them.
And kindness,
and
right?
kindness.
Gratefulness. Yeah.
Great, absolutely. And so I think it's important to see that. And I think you grow so much as an individual and as a person. Did anybody travel for education? Any study abroad, studying in different countries, different places?
I was too busy hanging out in Atlanta. I should have.
I actually did not travel internationally until I was 23 years old.
Oh, really?
So we did a lot of traveling as a family, but we drove everywhere.
Road trips were big.
Yeah, we did a lot of road trips. So I my first trip actually was to Mexico when I was 23 years old. Got my first passport, and that was my first stamp. So, I think I always wanted to, but I had just never taken advantage of doing any international travel. Now you get the bug, and
you can't stop.
You just want to keep doing it. And I'm fortunate enough to get somebody else to foot the bill a little bit sometimes. So,
what's the first trip that you remember?
Maybe I can start saying, I was about 8 years old. We lived in Israel at the time, and my folks decided a very interesting vacation to drive to the Haifa port and drive into a belly of a cruise ship and take a cruise over to Greece and spend some time in Greece. We stopped in Cyprus as well and drove halfway through Europe with our own car, which was very unique, I thought. It was 3 days of wild oceans, and it was tough. But I remember being up at the Acropolis and seeing the beautiful places of Greece. And I still have pictures that I admire very much from that time. And we visited family too, and then we came back the same exact way, which was kind of unique because you drive with your own car, you don't rent, and then you go into a belly of a ship, and there you are, and you sleep in a cabin. And so that was my first real trip that I remember.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's not quite as interesting as that. But my family, we on my dad's side, it's kind of a large family, cousins and aunts and uncles and grandparents. But we used to go to North Carolina and Blowing Rock every single year. We'd rent a cabin. And that would be kind of our yearly vacation. So I traveled mostly domestically as a child. But I just remember it was so much fun being with family and just, my grandmother trying to jump rope on the deck, and it was crazy, but it was so much fun.
Do you have pictures of that?
I do think I actually do. Yes.
I think it's important to make memories versus I would choose memories over material things any day, because Barbies, I don't remember all the toys that I had. I remember some of my favorites, right? My Cabbage Patch Kids, my best Barbies, my Light Bright, and my Easy Bake Oven. But it's the travel and the memories. One of the first trips that I remember was a cruise. And it was, I don't know if you remember, Premier Cruise Line was the Disney cruise before the Disney cruise that we all know of today. And I was about 7 years old with my parents. I was an only child at the time. Shouts out to my sister, but she's 10 years younger than me. So she's 15 now. And so as an only child, you're always trying to make friends in every environment that you're in. And so being on a cruise and being in the kids camp, kids club was an opportunity to meet friends, and people were from all over. One of the things I love about travel is the opportunity to meet different people and interact with different people and to talk to different people. And one of the places that you can do that very well is on a cruise because people are from all over, and the cabins are small and the quarters are small, and they seat you with people for meals, you know, who you don't know, and you just get to know people. And I just remember meeting so many friends. I don't talk to any of them still, but in that moment, right, in that week, that 7 days, 6 nights, 7 nights, these are your people, these are your buddies, and you're running back to your room, and it's nice.
Yeah.
And it does change your perspective because you're able to talk to people about life, about culture, about where they're from, and what they do, and you learn differences. And like we said before, you also learn about yourself. I think, and someone said this, Terry, our line sister. Hey, Terry. She said, life's best lessons are based on experiences learned through travel.
For sure.
And I think that's very true. We do have our phone lines open tonight if anybody wants to call in. Forgot to say that before. The number is 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. So if you want to call in, if you have any questions about travel or some of our experiences of any of our guests, please feel free to call in. The number's behind us too. You can see that. But feel free to call in. So anyway, we're talking about life's best lessons when it comes to travel. What are some of your lessons or things that you learn either about yourself, about other cultures, or just about travel in general, right? Because you can learn a lot of hard lessons in travel.
For me, you know, when people will ask us for some suggestions, the question is, do you want a trip or do you want a vacation? It's completely different, right? And I've done Europe a couple of different ways. I've done it where we were just constantly on the go, nonstop, just going on different tours and going to the Louvre and discovering everything that's there. But I've also cruised Europe, which is a little bit different, where, you know, you unpack one time and then you're able to see different places. And, you know, it's like it wasn't the on again, off the bus, on the bus. So it's just it's about yourself. What are you looking for? You know, do you need to relax on this trip? Are you looking for a spa or, you know, a first class white glove experience? So those are the kind of things that, you know, I have to ask myself too when I travel. I was just in Mexico. The week was 3 days, but it was relaxing. And it's just, what am I looking for? You know, and what do you, and you have to ask yourself, what do you want to get out of this? Is it something where you want, some people, they like to have a back-to-back itinerary where they're packed from one moment to the next, and others, they want a little break in between where they can actually discover those little restaurants or discover little bars and have drinks. It just really depends. But for me, it's like, what do I want out of this experience? And I think that's a good place so that you can set the expectation and then you can meet that.
Because in many ways, you've learned the hard way. I remember traveling as a teenager or a young adult, right? They say you can't travel with everybody. And I think that's so true because oftentimes people have different expectations of what a trip is supposed to be like. One person wants to go and go, shop, see the ruins, do this, do that. And someone else just wants to be on the beach with a book, just relaxing with a martini, and just enjoying themselves. What are some of your hard lessons learned? Have you ever lost luggage? Any other disasters? There was a time when we went to Mexico and my dad drank the water, thinking that it didn't. The rules didn't apply to him.
Yeah. It's like Sex in the City.
Like Sex in the City. Very much so. He learned the hard way. So what are some of your lessons learned in your travel experience?
I learned not to bring fruit back from Mexico. That was my first international trip, and I was our layover back coming back from Mexico was, I think it was in Detroit, and I just forgot that I had brought a banana from the resort, and I forgot to claim it or whatever on the form or throw it away, and I'm walking to get my luggage, and I walk past this police officer with a drug sniffing dog, and all of a sudden that dog is on my back. And the police officer is like, "What you got in there?" And I was like, "A banana." And she's like, "Oh, he loves bananas. That's fine. Just toss it." And I'm like, "Okay." So
for a moment you were like,
yeah, I was like, "Oh no, I'm coming back from Mexico and there's a drug dog on me." It was just a banana, but yeah.
Just a banana. Right.
Yes.
Anybody else?
I would just maybe add, be prepared, always be prepared that things will go wrong or, something will happen, like traveling with kids, right? They will get sick, you won't catch the next train or whatever you have planned. So just take it easy, don't stress out. Things will work out eventually.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
So I lost a few times my luggage, or they lost my luggage. The problem with that was I actually went as an athlete, as a tennis player, and losing the clothes and the tennis rackets to go to a tournament is kind of tough. So I ended up several times playing with a friend's equipment and a friend's clothes and shoes, and not necessarily my size.
Right.
So that was quite an experience. I remember that very clearly.
That's always a good lesson. Well, the first time I went to Mexico, my luggage fortunately wasn't lost, but my friend's was. So the lesson I learned, which everyone told us on our way, but we didn't do it, which was bring at least one change of clothes in your carry-on.
For sure.
We didn't do that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we had to go to the local Walmart or Siempre. And
What is it called again?
Siempre.
Oh, that's great
Always,
Spanish.
Always.
Oprah.
And we had to buy some clothes to get him through a couple days. But I now do that. Always have at least a toothbrush and one change of clothes in the carry-on.
Yeah,
That's smart.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Kids change of clothes for us because our daughter
absolutely.
threw up on an airplane, right?
Oh,
Change of clothes for us and for the
Yes,
kids.
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We have a little bag on the side that
Yes.
has all four of us. And then when they were little, a couple more.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Now it's less, but
Yeah.
it's there.
Any other travel advice or travel tips?
You know, we always say to make sure you have a seat assignment on a flight, and people don't think about that because if you don't, like, you can see now, like a lot of the flights are oversold, and so we'll suggest to people just pay the money, get the seat, just because at least you won't get bumped. You know, there are people that they won't, and the airlines now they're holding like 70% of the seats now, so yeah, it's crazy. So you can buy space, but you might not have a seat, and we're always just telling people pay the $10 or $20 or whatever it costs, just to make sure that you're guaranteed to get there.
That's good advice. That's good advice. I remember when my kids were smaller, we had a car stroller, which was a stroller. It was a car seat that folded out into a stroller. So it was a one shop operation, and you would push the stroller through the airport. And when you got on the plane, I never took mine on the plane, but I checked it. But the wheels would collect into the seat. And so they're not a sponsor of the show, but the car stroller itself was super handy. And people were always asking me about it, especially when I folded the wheels up, because it then became a car seat for your rental car, wherever you were going. But you would see people driving through, pushing a stroller and carrying a car seat and having all this equipment.
Right.
And there are things out there to I think simplify the process. So I think that was a travel tip that I wanted to share because it was really helpful. I don't have twins, but I had two small kids. And when you have two kids in car seats, no matter how old they are, it feels like twins because you've got double the equipment and just double the stuff. And so that was something that I thought was very helpful. So what has been your favorite place to visit? And if it's too hard, you can name a couple, but I think there's amazing spots out there. And what's a place where you were like, this exceeded my expectations. This is more than I thought it would be. This is a fantastic place.
I'll start on that. I will say Bora Bora, Tahiti.
Oh, yes.
That was a place that both of us leaving were like choking up because it was so beautiful and amazing. I don't know if I would take the kids there yet, but definitely as a couple, that's the place to go to.
Why wouldn't you take the kids? Yeah.
It's far. It's far.
It's very far.
Mm-hmm.
It's good several hours beyond Hawaii, and it's in the middle of the Polynesia.
And it's very expensive.
But definitely worth it. I mean, the water's there, and the islands are just gorgeous, and just that peace that you have there is just incredible. You feel farther away. You feel like you're remote. And if you're looking for that, like you said earlier, Elizabeth, I think that's an amazing place to go to. The other one I will have to say is being in Africa among the wildlife, which I was a little bit reserved about in the beginning when the idea came from my beautiful wife. But she definitely convinced me. And the moment we landed, it was just, we have to come back here, and we have to come back here again and again and again. We're not there yet, but we have been there twice, and it's something else being among the animals. It's just,
I remember when you guys
supposed to be.
Took that trip.
That's where humans supposed to be, honestly.
Favorite places?
Okay. So I went to Santorini last year, and it was incredible. Greece is just an amazing place. That location was on my bucket list. But then I also traveled to Taormina. So we were around the Amalfi Coast, and just being the beaches in Europe are so different, right, than being in the Caribbean or Mexico or being in the United States. It's just this different feeling. It's this chic, easy way of life there. And then they have, of course, amazing food and wine. But just being in Sorrento and Taormina, I kept saying I want to go back there, and stay for a couple of weeks and just rent a home there. I mean, it was incredible.
This is really basic, but I think I enjoyed it more because of the experience. I took my mom to London. It was her first trip out of the country, and it was really, really cool. It was actually, I mean, you guys noted it about seeing it through your children's eyes, but it was really, really fun to see London through my mom's eyes, and when she had not been, and she just had a great time. So we've got it on our list to get my dad back, but but it was, I mean, I love London, so I've been back there a number of times, but it was just, and I'm a little obsessed with the royal family, but whatever. But it was, I mean, it was great to do that with my mom, but I also just really love London and the history in the UK. So awesome.
All right. For me, I think my honeymoon, we went to Mexico, like I said, but specifically when we did an excursion to Tulum, and just the history of that is just insane. I mean, you don't expect it to look, I mean, you think of like, when you think of ruins, right? You think of these like kind of little pyramid type things, but it's an entire city. I mean, the expanse of space that it is, I didn't expect it at all. And it's one of those things, like you said, it expands your concept of a culture, and it honestly changes your life. And my husband and I, we still talk about it, and it's so great to have that experience with someone else as well. And I think that I mean, you having that with your mom or your spouse or your kids, it impacts your whole family.
And just to I wanted to mention something, Dana, that you said about how you'd rather have experiences and not things. We see a lot of people doing that now. So instead of spending a bunch of money on items, materialistic things for Christmas, people are going on these generational trips, or they're taking the grandparents are taking the entire family to have an experience instead of, spending money on iPads and iPhones. So people want to have that, right? And those memories to look back on and really have those experiences that impact their lives and that are life-changing.
And what do you mean by generational experiences?
So like the grandparents will pay for the kids, and then the grandkids, and we've seen a lot of those where people are just saying, you know what, we're going to do this for the holidays instead, or for spring break we're going to do that, or this summer I want to take the entire family. So people are doing that instead of spending the money on the materialistic items. And I think it's just a trend we've seen for a while, and it just keeps growing.
If I can add one more thing, I think we are making a conscious decision almost every time there's birthdays or events that we are actually putting time together as a priority. And I think that's the gift, the time together with the kids and with one another. So around the summertime when it's Katerina's birthday, it's like, which trip are we going on now? What would you like to plan? So I think that this is I think it's kind of like the new thing, and I hope that it will be for everyone.
Where do you get your trip ideas from?
I just got like 4 sitting here. No, I think that's a lot of how you get it. Just like referrals or talking to people and experiences they've had that I've always wanted to go there. And then you hear someone that's been, you're like, all right, I'll do it. You did it, so I can do it. So I think just hearing what others have done for sure.
And I think as a leisure travel agent, it's really difficult because people call you all the time and want to go on these amazing trips, and you plan them and you look at all these pictures and you plan basically your dream trip for someone else, and they love it and have this amazing experience, and then you're like, well, I guess I'll add that to the list. You know what I mean? It's just never ending, and it just opens your eyes having to plan it every single day. It's a never ending list. You could spend your whole life doing it and not see everything.
So what's next on your list in terms of your travel?
So in the last few years, we started traveling actually a lot also domestically. So we love traveling internationally, but 3 years ago, we did our first trip several national parks strung
cool.
together.
That's
And
cool.
we absolutely fell in love with the natural beauty
Mhm.
and what this country has to offer. So actually, each August, we've started doing kind of a national park trip. And last summer, we went to Yellowstone and Glacier, and they were beautiful. Both of them incredible experiences. And it's not, like you said, nothing materialistic. We actually wake up in the morning, go see the sunrise at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then do a hike with the kids. And it's a fabulous day. We have fun, collecting pine cones, or walking through streams, or then the payoff is you arrive at this beautiful glacier lake at the end of the hike, and you're like stunned, and
Or see a moose 10 feet away from you.
Exactly, and it's these beautiful experiences. So I bought this book, National Parks books, and I just get my inspiration there now. I flip through it, and where are we going next?
Yep. Yeah, I always like to go somewhere I've never been. So every year I try to find, a place that I'm trying to, and I have, of course, a list of places that I want to go to. But, one of the ways I like to see the world is cruising, because, you can see a lot of different destinations. And then from there, you can pick where you want to, like, I want to go back to Taormina or Sorrento and spend some time there. So I always look at, like, where's some place in the world I haven't been? And then I'll just put a trip together and then go from there.
Yep. I will never forget when we were on a cruise, Italy and Croatia, and this giant cruise ship was going through the canal in
The Grand
Venice.
Canal in Venice.
And then you're just going this giant ship, and looking down, and in front of you are all these vaporettos, stringing through the canal like a spider web, and you're like, how are we gonna fit in there? It was incredible. One of the most amazing sights.
And the million people were looking at us.
Yes,
We were the big ship.
Yeah.
Everybody
And
from both
Marcus,
sides.
where everybody's waving at us.
Yeah, it was quite a sight. I mean, I have to say that was something I will remember forever.
And you made it, right?
We made it.
Specifically, I want to talk about traveling with kids, because you have 2 girls, and they are 9, just turned 9 in May. And I want to talk about one thing that I admire about you is that you guys have never stopped traveling. You guys have always been on the road, or the skies, or the boats with your girls. And I think that that's remarkable, because I think a lot of people feel like they can't travel because they have kids. And so can you talk about how you don't feel limited in your travels, with your girls?
So I would say for us traveling with our children, it's all about the time together. So we create memories when we go, and it's amazing how much the girls remember. They talk about it all the time. Remember when we were there and we did this? So it does stick in their mind, and so we just do everything together when we go. If we go skiing, if we drive to Colorado and we go skiing, we ski together. We don't put them in ski school. It's we do it together. When we go, we travel somewhere, we do the hikes together. It's all about spending time together. It's so precious. Their childhood is so short, right? They're already 9. They were just born. Like, where did these last 9 years go? And another 9 years, and they will be adults. So we treasure the time we have together, and we want to create memories, and we bond, and we talk, and it's precious. And in the beginning it was hard when they were young. It wasn't easy. We had to be prepared. It was obviously a lot of gear. It's better, way better now. They are much more independent. They're used to, they know it all. They know what to expect. And I would say for us, like, getting them ready for all the trips was always preparation. Right. We talk through everything. Okay. We are, whether it be traveling to visit our families in Europe or traveling somewhere else, it was, we are going to take first the long flight, then the short flight, a couple hours changeover. We are going to arrive in the evening. We're going to go to bed, and so then they know what to expect. They are prepared for it.
They're part of the itinerary. They know what's going on. They know every day what's going to happen. And I feel that, big part it's Katarina's job, because she's so good with planning and everything, but sharing it with them, telling them, explaining it to them, which activity comes when. We wake up tomorrow really early, so we need to get to bed really early tonight. There's a flight, there's a drive. Now is nap time, and that bringing them up that way from a very, very young age. I think now they're expert. They're packing their own bags. They take their own little bags, the little toys, they have everything set. They just ask us, can I bring this? Should I bring that? Is it too big? Is it too small? But I mean, they're part of the travel itself. I mean, it's just
It's very fun.
it's a lot of fun, really, and seeing all the places through their eyes, and landing in different places, even domestically. Just recently in Florida, just they're walking around with their iPad, taking pictures of one another, explaining what is this stream and that river and this and that. Just it's quite an experience just to watch that. Really, really fun.
They should be on the next travel show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that would be really good.
What tips would you recommend for kids on long flights? What works well for your girls?
So, be prepared, bring, coloring books, whatever your child's hobbies are, right? So, coloring books, my daughters love stuffed animals, so they always bring at least one, sometimes more, or like these little squishies now, the little squishy animals, right? They pretend play, so they are lucky that they have each other, so they occupy each other. But now they like to watch the movies on the plane, they read books, they listen to playaways, right? So, we try to do a combination of everything so that they don't end up doing one thing the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, cards, board games. We always pack up, in the evening before they go to bed. We always have card games. So on a flight, we kind of use that as well. I think they watch a little bit, but we allow them maybe one movie, and that's it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they play some games, but it's always in intervals, so they do a little bit of everything. I think preparation is really the key. Is like you have to plan the flight for them, and then they become little pros of them. They know already what they should be doing, and it's really education from a young age that if you sort of embed that seed, they become really good travelers actually, and they're helping us now. They're really helping us now.
And education through experience, right?
Yeah,
they're learning,
absolutely.
and then they become experts.
And we learn
themselves.
too, because when they, when we didn't pack this or didn't pack that, we're like, okay, next time, the Benadryl is in the bag, or something like that. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
There was a question from Katie. Thank you so much for submitting this question earlier this week with respect to beach getaways, specifically domestic beach getaways that provide childcare. So there's some people who are interested in having a mechanism with which to get a break, to allow their kids to still be safe and have a good time. What would you recommend, or what would you say to that?
So I was saying that the Ritz-Carlton in Key Biscayne, which is
amazing,
really close, right? So we've sent a lot of families there with their kids. They have an incredible kids program. Obviously, it's the Ritz-Carlton, so their staff and the staff that interacts with the kids are going to be outstanding. So that's just a good way for the adults to have a great vacation while the kids are too. And there's also a Club Med. It's a little bit older, but I would say the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons is the way to go.
And I actually think a lot of the more family and popular destinations, obviously near Disney, you're going to have a lot of that. But then, the Miamis, the Clearwaters, if you look at the bigger resorts, not just like small hotels, but the resorts with more amenities, a lot of them will have that sort of thing, the childcare, because they know that you're going as a family, but they know that obviously, you might want to go out to eat with your husband or whoever, you know what I mean, and take just a short break. So I think that there's more of them that exist than maybe people know.
That's great. And I think that's very helpful. So thank you so much for that question. Thank you all so much for sharing the show and for tuning in. I think that for some people, as with many things, travel creates anxiety. People are afraid of different people, new people, lines, crowds, small spaces, germaphobes on planes, germaphobes in public bathrooms. I mean, the list goes on. Now, what would you say to somebody who's just struggling with getting started with travel, whether they be your friend, a neighbor, a coworker?
So I have travel anxiety myself. So it can be difficult and it can be scary. But I think it's just your desire has to go over your fear of things.
Say that again.
Your desire has to go above your fear. So, going to go with my husband, I was petrified. You see all these things on the news, and honestly, it's to be fair, it's not as large of a problem as the media portrays. But I was, being me and anxious, worrywart, I was still concerned. And my husband was like, "It'll be fine," even though he's never left the country. But he was like, "No problem." But I got anxious on the plane. I was like, "I got to get out of here." But obviously, I'm 10,000 feet above ground. But I think it's just, focusing on the exciting aspects of it, focusing on why you're doing it, and honestly finding the comforts from home. So even if it's bringing a book that you're super familiar with, or taking an iPad with Netflix shows, or, taking those comforts of home with you, make it so much easier, but just focusing on why you're doing it.
And I was going to say also, obviously because of the media, unfortunately, people are scared to go to Mexico, to Jamaica too, right? Because there's some things that have happened recently, but that doesn't mean the entire island or country has been affected. But I'll tell people sometimes, like, there are places you need to be careful that you're going to in the U.S. So use common sense, right? And if you're going to travel, like, don't act differently because you're out of the United States than you would here, right? And there are people that are totally adamantly against traveling to certain places, then we're not going to send you there. It's kind of like, let's get your feet wet. Let's try something simple. Maybe it's a domestic trip. Maybe it's going to New Orleans, or maybe it's something simple like that. Then we can build up to that. Because we've had those clients before that want to travel, but they're not sure where to start. So it's like an intro. Like, we take baby steps to get you there.
So if we're not sure where to start, we can call you.
You can.
We can reach out to you and you can help us.
Absolutely.
How should we reach you?
You want to tell this time?
Oh, you go.
Okay.
You know the numbers.
614-237-4488 and uniglobetravaldesigners.com.
And you'll work with us?
We'll work with you.
Even though we're nervous, we're scared, we've never traveled?
For sure.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. What advice do you all have? Does anybody else have any advice in closing about travel or your recommendations? There's people out there watching, and every show that I do has a purpose and a reason. And I wanted to share with some of my friends who travel the most, who know the most about traveling. And I admire how you guys live your lives through travel. And I just think it's a great way to express yourself, to have memories, to have experiences. And I want to encourage other people, because life is short, right? What's a bucket list that's unfulfilled, right? What's an empty passport with no stamps? So, what can you tell people, to encourage them? If we can encourage people to call, seriously, to call Uniglobe, but to take that trip, to book that trip.
I think it's being open. Step out of your comfort zone. Take a chance. I mean, it will change your life. All of my trips have changed my life. Going to Beijing was a hard trip. It was a difficult trip, but to get through it and to travel throughout Beijing, to see the Great Wall, it's like, wow, I was able to do that. And it was totally out of my comfort zone. And it's helped me just become I have more of my perspective on the world is completely different. I mean, being in the minority there was very interesting too. It was hard for people to help us, but we figured out how to navigate that. Just take the chance. Like, there's a whole world out there, and take the risk and step out of your comfort zone. That's how you're going to grow and stretch and be a better person.
My tip would just be, everyone now is planning trips online, and if you're up for that challenge, by all means, but it is overwhelming. There's so many places to go, and every single place has hundreds of hotels, and you don't know what to do. Just get help if you need it, because you don't want to spend your money on a trip that, isn't what you wanted it to be, or, spending your time doing all of that work when you don't know how it's going to turn out. So just get help if you need it.
That's awesome.
I would say life is short. Live it to the fullest. Don't be afraid. The world is a beautiful place.
I like that.
That's nice. Yeah.
So, as someone who traveled quite a bit, I can say that everywhere you learn something, and every place gives you another piece for your life, to teach kids, to teach your family, to tell your friends. You get together with your friends, you always have a story to tell. I mean, it's just you're becoming a very interesting person because you've been into many places. And I think everywhere you go, you can always tell somebody, oh yeah, I've been there, or I've seen it, or I heard someone who's done it, and you should do it. And I think it's just very interesting, and you become kind of like a center of a talk because everybody wants your opinion and idea. So yeah, we just constantly learn from every place, and the world is a beautiful place. Absolutely.
That's awesome.
I think I would say just go. And I would say ask locals when you get there. So, I think we all have aspirations and visions of some of the places that have been on our bucket list and things you definitely want to see. But I think locals give some of the best advice around just like history that, isn't in a book or not well known, but restaurants and
Mhm.
other things to
Oh,
do
yeah.
in addition. So I would say go, and people are willing to help wherever you go. So
Mhm.
there's been someone new there before you too. So
You're not the first person.
Yeah.
You're not the first visitor.
yeah.
Yeah, don't eat on the main boulevard.
Yeah.
Get lost in the
Off
little
the beaten
streets.
path.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because some of the holes in the wall
Oh,
Yeah.
the best
Yep.
meals
can be
ever.
the best
Uh-huh.
meals, the best music,
Mhm.
the
Absolutely.
best live music,
Oh,
just
yeah.
the best time.
Yeah.
The best
local
time.
Sure.
advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thank you all so much for being here. You guys were awesome. This
Thank
is amazing. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
want to
you.
thank Uniglobe Travel Designers.
Thank you.
And I want to thank my friends, Denise, Robbie, Katarina, Devin, Liz. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you also for tuning in. Thank you for sharing the show. GH Private Wealth Management, Social MVP, Scene Chicago, Veronica's House of Glamour, and the Homecoming Challenge. There's just so much going on, and I just appreciate everybody. There's been a lot of people who have shown up for this show. I just want to give a couple shout outs to Tim from Lessons I Learned from Drinking. He was on my show last week. He wrote the book, Lessons I Learned from Drinking. It went #1 on Amazon. We were promoting him. We went to college together, and I'm just so proud of you, Tim. Thank you all so much. There's a lot of people out there going through hard times. And so I just wanted to send a shout out and just a reminder, Dana being Dana is about showing up. And I appreciate you all for showing up for me, especially from coming from Ohio. So just a reminder to show up for people. And a shout out to my friend Rich at AT&T. He helped me with my new phone. I had a big, huge phone technology disaster this week. So I want to say I thank you. I appreciate you. My upgrade is working out just perfectly. So thank you so much. Surprise and delight.
Yes.
Call Uniglobe Travel Designers. They surprise and delight. And finally, next week on Dana Being Dana is Dana Palooza, y'all. Dana Palooza. It's my first music talent showcase. We're going to be live on location in the Naperville area, and we've got a great show in store for you. I got a lot of friends who are musicians, singers, dancers. Please tune in. You can join us by RSVPing at DanaBeingDana.com. DanaBeingDana@gmail.com. Please subscribe to the website and join us for a fun night next week. This is Dana Being Dana. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is our 45th show. Our 45th show. So thank you all so much for tuning in. I appreciate you all. Good night.